welcome and thank you for all you do. We're going to start off with, let me make sure I'm doing this right. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. And here you go. So this is the, let's go to the top. How's that? Might be a good place to start, don't you think? So welcome to Proposal Writing 101. This is, oh, I gotta click. Oh, got here, this one. Hold please, sorry. Here we go. There we go. Proposal Writing 101. I want you to understand that by completing this class, will you be able to submit a federal proposal? You could, but you may not get it. If you submit a foundation proposal, that's great. Will you get it? Maybe, maybe not. Understand, this is a craft. It takes time to learn it, but you got to start somewhere. I want to throw a quote out there. I thought my mom was a brilliant lady. She was wonderful. She was a great mom. She used to say, you know, if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? That was her little quote. I thought she made it up. I found out later when I was coming up with doing these presentations that she actually stole it from someone. She did paraphrase it, so it wasn't complete. She didn't plagiarize completely, but she did borrow it from someone. So I'll give that person credit as well. But that is something that I've always tried here is the first proposal that you write, you may not get. If you get it, there will be a failure. But don't forget, you got to keep trying. You got to keep trying. Each time it's going to get better. And when you do a proposal, you create text for future proposals. So it's never a waste of time. All right, and there's my contact information. I always tell people that if you decide to call me and I don't answer, don't take offense at that. I'm frequently in meetings. If you send me an email or you text me, that's the best way to get a hold of me. All right, here we go. So we're going to start off with some quizzes, correct, Brian?
Yes, we have some polls already.
Okay, so I'm going to now stop sharing and hand it over to you, correct?
You can keep going, and then I'll launch the polls when you're ready.
Okay, well, I want to start off to see who we have in the room, in the Zoom. So the first one is, how many proposals or grant applications have you completed? A would be none, and then keep going from there. So click on that. I just want to get an idea of who's in the room. Okay, it could be, okay. All right. So I think we're pretty close to, because I'm assuming the other two people are probably some of us. So good, we've got a pretty good number of folks that are brand new. And welcome to the world of grant writing. I hope you get hooked enough where you keep continuing on. Then we have some that have completed more than 10. So welcome, you veterans. I look forward to your input as well, but we have a pretty good mix. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now we're going to go to the next slide, which asks then, what types, sorry about that. Let's see, what do you see? How many grant proposals? Oh, have you, did I jump over a slide, Brian? Oh, how many, okay, now how many of the applications have been awarded? So now I want to see how many have won some. All right. Good, we've got some, okay, we've got some folks that have received awards. So we have about 3, 4, so 10. We've got about 15 folks that have been awarded grant proposals. Good job. That means you've improved the quality of life for the folks you're serving. Excellent job. Hopefully that number is going to increase after you take this class. Thank you very much for that one. Then the types of proposals that you've written. This would be, I'd like to know what kind of experience you have and what types of proposals you've written. Now, for those of you that haven't written any, just don't even answer. Don't worry about it. And then we will know, I'll get an idea of, good, we have excellent. We have some folks that have pursued government proposals. Very good. Largely foundations, and that's to be expected. Good. Okay, excellent. And we have one more. And now is to check for your understanding, how you feel about your knowledge. So level of understanding for all the components of a proposal, all the different pieces that go into proposals. Let me see where we are with this. Okay, got a few folks that are knowledgeable, and the rest, good. You're going to learn from this. That's what I like to see. And we will be doing some of these proposals or these questions at the end, as well as the famous evaluation that I'm holding over your head and I'm going to keep reminding you about. Excellent. All right, well, let's get into this then. Thank you very much. All right, so the things we're going to be covering, what you need to know before you write. So the things that you really should get prepared for. Another thing is, what are the pieces of a proposal? And then the third thing is how you find them and putting it all together. Some things to know. People always ask me if I love my job. And my answer is no, I hate it sometimes. And the reason being because it's hard. It's hard to sit there behind a computer in isolation and write a proposal. Put your fingers on the keyboard and create a proposal that's going to be funded. It's hard. Is it impossible? No. Is it like organic chemistry? Absolutely not. You don't have to have passed organic chemistry. You don't have to have passed calculus to be a good proposal writer. What it does require, though, is the ability to read, to think, to follow directions, to research, and to write. Those are the things. But it also requires tenacity. It requires you to keep trying and keep trying, to look at a sentence, find a different way to write it. It takes time for you to, it's hard because sometimes at night, in the middle of the night, that's when you have your quiet time and you are in isolation, but you're getting it done. Is it a value? Absolutely. I told the story when I was working for Goodwill Southern California. This was 15 years ago. I had written a proposal for a work source center in Palmdale, and it was for folks who were unemployed to go seek employment. And we got awarded it. And I marked off like, yeah, won that one, put the little win on my scorecard. And then I went to see the work source center, and a gal came up to me and said, you're the one that wrote the proposal? I'm like, yes, I did, as a matter of fact. And she stopped me and she said, I just really want to thank you. I said, no problem. That's my job. She said, no, this was the first time in 3 years I was able to buy my children Christmas presents. And that's where it hit home. That's where it hit home. I thought to myself, well, I'm not just sitting behind a keyboard at 11 o'clock at night with reruns of CIS New Orleans or whatever it is. Cupcake Wars, I think at the time, was my favorite. I am actually changing lives. So just know that it's hard, but it's so worth it. You just got to keep going and never give up. So that's my little bit of inspiration. It takes practice too. All right, so what do you need to, let me go back. What do you need to know before, close enough, before you start writing? I want to go back though, because, yep, I'm going to give you some tips on the things that you need to get together before you start writing, the things you need to think about. Want to start off though with something that is important. I'm going to go over a lot of different buckets of information you need, the key topics that you need to address in proposals. But the important thing is that you keep it simple. It's not that hard. It's basically what you're trying to do is convince your prospective funder that you have a plan and that you're able to implement the plan. So if you keep it simple. So what I want to do right now is I want to go back to something. Anytime you get lost, go back to a problem that you've solved in your life. I was telling Brian last week that I for the longest time had a phone that I loved. And many of you had this phone at one time. It was called the BlackBerry. Yes. For those of you that loved your BlackBerry, I need to see thumbs up or something, because yes, Marilyn, I love my BlackBerry too. It had a keyboard. It was simple. It worked really, really well. And then one day I was trying to check in early on Southwest and it wouldn't work. Southwest wouldn't accept it. I knew at that point in time that it was time to bid adieu to my BlackBerry. It was hard. It was really hard. So then I had to do my research. I had to think about what other types of phone. I had a choice between the Apple iPhone and other phones. So I did my research, and I did not want to be one of those lemmings that had an Apple iPhone. So I got a Google Pixel. Yes, to be a rebel. And I love my Google Pixel. Do I love it as much as my BlackBerry? Absolutely not. But I did my research and it worked. I knew how much money I wanted to spend. I wasn't going to spend $1,100 for a phone. So I got a Google Pixel. All the steps I just went through are basically the parts of a proposal. So think about it. I knew I had a problem. My BlackBerry was dying. Southwest wouldn't accept my early check-in. That's a problem. That's a needs assessment. Then I knew I had to do my research. So then I have to think about what the solutions are. So I did my research. I looked at the cost. I came up with a solution. Those are all the different parts of a proposal. And I now have a Google Pixel 5 or whatever. I'll probably get Google Pixel 6. If BlackBerry comes out again though, I'm telling you, I'm going back. I'm going back. All right, so again, keep it simple. Always think about a problem you had in your life and how you tackled it. So what we're gonna do now, all right. So what we're gonna do is a theoretical exercise. This has not been a problem for any of you, I'm sure. Theoretically, maybe theoretically you put on a few too many pounds, okay? Holidays are coming up, you know, and COVID, you learn how to make bread. That would be me. Bread is really good. Homemade bread is really good. So you may have, you know, the scale may have increased a bit. And I got to tell you, yoga pants and tights, you really don't know if you gain that much weight, right? So what we want to do is I'm going to open up a mural for you. And I want you, there's these different boxes that have needs, program design, outcomes, evaluation, and budget. What I want you to do is, so the needs section is what information do you need to prove that there is a problem? And you're thinking, now the problem is you've put on a few too many pounds. So what information might you need to prove that there is a problem? The second part is the program design. What are some ways that you might solve that problem that you've put on a few too many pounds? There are plenty of options out there. We see them every night at 11 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning on those infomercials. Do you remember Suzanne Summers and the Thigh Master? Remember those? So you want to think about those types of things. The third thing is what outcomes might you achieve with your solutions? So if you do lose weight, what are some of the outcomes? What are some of the benefits of that? The fourth thing is, how will you know you've achieved those outcomes? So what evidence do you have that you've lost weight? And then you have to consider what the cost is going to be. So I am now going to escape. Oops, sorry, let me go back here. My apologies. I'm going to escape. And I'm going to come back here. Sorry. I'm going to put this information into copy.
Put it in the link in the chat for you already, Andrea.
You already do it. Brian, you are a rock star. Okay, so what you're going to do is I'm now going to go to the mural. And now you should all see up there. And people are going into the mural. Okay, so I already put the Post-its there. So you just click on one of the Post-its under the columns. Do you all see it? And does it look correct? Yes, excellent. So just click on one of those Post-its and start typing in under what the needs are. So again, you put on a few too many pounds. So how do you know that this is a problem? And then the solution, what the outcomes are. There's 2 columns of outcomes. My apologies. Put it in either. The evaluation, and there we go. So just start. Very good. So we have the clothes don't fit. Just click on a box and type right in there. Oops.
So if you're clicking and you can't write, it should say you're in move mode. So on the bottom right of the screen, you'll see like the little box, your zoom finder, and right to the left, there's a little hand there. Go ahead and click on the hand, and it should turn off that mode, and you should be able to click on a sticky note and add your content.
Thank you, Brian. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. So in the bottom right corner of your screen, you'll see zoom settings, and then you'll see your little zoom window. To the left of that zoom window, you'll see a hand. Go ahead and click on the hand, and it should toggle off that move mode. And you should then be able to click on a sticky and then add your text.
Is anyone having problems? If so, unmute yourself and tell us what the problems are with the mural. If not, it's okay. That's good.
Yes, this is Gina. I'm on my Mac, and it's ghosted. That little box with the hand is ghosted, and when I click, nothing is doing. And even when I go to like my more settings, it says disable video receiving. So I don't know what.
I too am having I'm having a problem. I don't see the box, and maybe it's because I can't get my screen any larger. I have it as large as it'll go,
Okay.
but the little box you're speaking of isn't showing.
You know, then go smaller. If you go smaller, you should be able to see on the bottom right side where it says zoom settings and that's where the hand is as well. You then will be able to see where we're doing all the work, and it's usually in the top left.
But you don't have it, yeah.
Move it over.
You probably exit the full screen.
Yeah. Okay, this is Patricia. I'm also having problems. I've got my office neighbor here. He's a lot better than I am, helping me try to find the.
And yes, sometimes you have to zoom in to see where everyone's working, and you'll see at the top left-hand corner. Like I'm at 39%, and you see it's like in the top left by about a quarter of it. And I'll give you guys about another 2 minutes. And for those of you that can't participate, we might be able to, if you see what you're thinking up there, great. If not, you might be able to put in chat under, like, just put needs and then type it in, then we can add it to it. Great.
Yeah, just about to get.
Yeah, it's just not working. Okay, I'm unable to do it. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't see that hand on the left-hand side at the bottom.
Okay, you know, so if you want, you could put what you're thinking in the chat, and then we can go ahead and type it in for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and just a note for me, I was able to just click on one of the boxes already there and then the text and type. I didn't have to click on anything different.
Great, great. And that's why I put the boxes in. I was hoping to make it easier on people.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
That was really good. observation. Yeah, all you have to do is actually click on existing little sticky notes and write in.
Yep. Okay, got 1 more minute, and then we'll go over your program design for losing weight. Okay. Oops, that didn't come out. All right, okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at your program design right now. So let's take a look. So your needs, what you've just done is you've identified your needs. So some of the things, clothes don't fit. Constant food stains on clothes. Whoever said that, I love your sense of humor, especially oil, right? Okay, excellent. Let's see here. Behavior, mood has changed. Feel fatigue. Don't feel the same. Sugar cravings. Tired. Bad. Doctor says stop now. Clothes do not fit. Feeling tired. Feeling tired. So less energy. Exactly. So you know the needs. You can identify the problem by looking at the needs, right? So then you're like, okay, we know the needs. We don't feel well. Things don't fit. We got to throw out clothes because we're staining them. Okay, so those are the needs. So now we got to come up with a solution. So then we can make a plan, schedule. Excellent. Lead a healthier life. Change eating habits. Sounds so easy. Pills. You can always take pills. Hike the Pacific Crest Trail. See a doctor. Make a plan. Exercise. Gain too much weight. That would be over on the knee. I want to feel healthy and live better. Exercise with friends. Go vegan. Cheese is really hard to break, though. I'm just telling you. I can take care of the meat, but cheese is hard to get rid of. Stop eating carbs. Stop it. I love to learn how to make bread over COVID. All right, let's move on. So now we know, okay, we have a problem. Clothes don't fit, unhealthy, tired. So now what we can do is we can basically move more, eat less, eat better, go to a doctor. So then we have to think about what the outcomes would be. So then if you achieve your program, then you'd have lower blood pressure, you'd feel healthier, you'd look better, get better sleep, you could dance, you could have better self-esteem, you could roughhouse with Misty May. And then need to exercise more would go over into the program design. But how about this? You can exercise more. That would be under your outcomes. Then you eat healthier, okay? And eating healthier then would also go under the program design. Very good. Then let's talk about evaluation. So how do we know? How do we know that we've lost weight? So this would be determining if you achieved your goals, that the weight would be lower, that you'd feel better, that clothes would fit better, exactly, that you would lower your BMI, that you would track, measure weight on scale. Very good. Need a new wardrobe. Yes. Spend more money. Very good. Then you have to talk about, okay, well, this is all going to come at a price, right? So you got to end up buying running shoes. You need to read more about healthier lifestyle. Weight Watchers, there is a cost there, a low cost, I might add. Gym membership or home gym. Peloton, right? That is a costly little thing. Small, what does that say? Small, I see small something goals, daily goals. Is there a cost? Maybe if you need to take up time out of your normal day, that there could be a cost associated with that. Very good. So I want you now to all pause. So I want you to think about this. This is basically, these are all the components of proposals. The only thing we're missing is we're missing a few other things like sustainability, like the organizational capacity. We could throw that in as well. But this is the basic structure for proposals, for any proposal out there. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to, Susie, we're ahead of schedule. So what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing my mural. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at your faces. And so we are ahead of schedule, and now we're going to take a little tiny break. But before we do that, questions, because this is their time. You've got, understand this is where you can ask questions about proposals in general. You can ask about funders. This is your time to ask some questions. Anybody have any questions? Unmute yourself and ask questions, or if we have any questions in the chat, let's tackle them. Anybody? Anybody? It's too easy. I've made it too simple. I should make it more complex. Make it hard so you guys have to ask questions. Okay, I forgot to also tell you, there's total magic in proposal writing. Only I can do it. No, come on, ask questions.
That was a great format you presented. Although I wasn't able to participate in the sticky notes, I followed and it completely made sense.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's honestly, guys, it's when you sit down with a request for proposal, an RFP, which is often what funders float. They float an RFP, especially government funders. You may have a document that's 30 or 40 pages long. When it comes down to it, every proposal will have the same steps, just different levels of complexity. And so but if you can think back to, okay, this isn't that hard. There are needs, there are needs. These needs need to be fixed or solved. That's why you're there. The IECC, if all the nonprofits in the Inland Empire were $5-6 million serving everybody that had needs, and then we wouldn't have any poverty, we'd have a high graduation rate, we wouldn't have any hunger, IECC wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here. So if you think about that, everybody, you're here because there's a need. You have a solution to the problems, right? Now with that, you'll know what it takes to have solved, what it looks like after you've solved those problems, and there's a cost. That's basically what every proposal consists of. Other questions or comments?
What's the usual time frame for a proposal? Like after you submit it, how long does it take to hear back, or is that dependent on who you submitted it to?
Very much so. So the fastest I've ever seen. Now I want to also, and thank you for asking that question. If you're submitting to foundations, I would say that if you haven't become a friend of the program officer, or if they don't know of your organization and you're just submitting a cold letter of intent, a cold LOI, chances are slim and none that you're going to receive it. Okay, chances are slim and none that you may even hear back from them. So it's always important to court and actually to teach the foundation about your organization and learn what they're about as well. So all that's a huge asterisk beforehand. But I would say that the shortest turnaround I've ever seen is when a foundation has money at the end of the year and has approached you in funding you, and then it might be as short as 2 weeks. That's rare. I would say minimum, and Susie, I'm gonna call on you in a second, but I would say minimum, like breakneck pace would be 3 months up to, golly, I mean,
6 months.
6 months, and that's still pretty fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen them where, especially if you have to go back, if you're looking for a pretty substantial or longer term award, it can go back and forth for 6 months, and then it could be a year.
Yeah.
For government grants, it can be a year.
We just,
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, if it's like a national foundation, we applied was almost 9 months before, 10 months, and we hadn't heard, and they had like they should notify, and they didn't. And then come 9 months, like you're saying, then they're reaching out to you for negotiations, which could take another month or two before they actually award you. And then waiting for the funds came almost 11 months from the time we wrote it, right? When we actually got the funds. So, and this is a corporate foundation, but they're all different, like you said. And I think the only time you'll see it when it's a lot quicker turnaround is if they're inviting you. If they're inviting you, sometimes it's because they have extra money and they need to get it spent quickly, right, at the end. And those sometimes can be, the turnaround for you to submit is a week, and the turnaround getting the money could be the next month, right? Those are not as common, but certainly you have to be ready to do a proposal in a week. And Andrea knows that, when they're inviting you to submit.
Now, and what oftentimes I have nonprofits approach me and say, I need a grant. I need a grant within the next 3 months, or else we're gonna have to close our doors. And my response is, it's time to get the locks changed, because if you're in that kind of position, that's where you go to your donors. That's where you say, look, we're in trouble. And hopefully you'll never be in that position, because that's just a horrible position to be in. But that's where you have to go to donors, because you can't rely on any kind of grant funding. Sorry to be so negative. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you for those answers. This is Patricia Sanchez. My other question is, what do you do to establish a relationship with funders, or like you said, court them, and what's like the best way? How do you keep that connection?
Yep. And I'm totally going to turn this over to Susie, who is the master, I guess it could be the master of relationships with foundations. I mean, obviously it's when they are speaking, if there is an event or a training session that they're providing, that you start off going and showing them that you are there, that you're showing up, talking to them without too much of a hard sell. That's the other thing, because you don't want to come across as fund me, fund me, fund me, fund me. You want to, it's a relationship is a relationship. And so Susie, you want to throw some things in there?
Yeah, thank you. I think, the best tip I can offer is you have to realize how often they get asked for money, right? It's their position and they know that, right? And almost everyone that they meet and talk to wants them to fund them. I would say to you, the best advice is, first of all, know about their priorities before you even speak to them. It is just respectful, and most of them will turn off from you. If, let's say, you're an environmental organization and you go to the California Wellness Foundation and they're a health organization and you want to fund, saving the puppies. Sorry, that's me. So that's kind of extremes, but a lot of times it is very misaligned organizations going to a funder and asking them, and they look at you as not being respectful enough to even know what they fund. So do your homework, as Andrea said, about what they do fund. And here's my other good advice. If you're in a room with them, be prepared to ask a really smart question, right? Something that tells them that you know what their funding priorities are, and you'd like some clarity around something specifically like on their website, right? That they're not talking about. They'll go over what they fund, but you might look at, say, I noticed that you funded in the last 2 years several organizations that are in the Inland Empire, but they're mostly around health organizations, right? Or clinics. Do you also fund nonprofits that work? So that tells them that you did your homework to go look on their site. You also looked and saw who they funded before. That's just like if you've never met them. The other advice I would give is I would never, ever ask them the first time I'm meeting them about funding. I don't. I wait until they know you, they know what I'm doing. And I'm also respectful of the fact that if I need to reach out to them, it is because specifically, and make sure that you make the funder that you're reaching out to is one that wants you to reach out to them, because there's some that do not. They don't want you to call them. They don't want you to be calling or emailing or texting them. So if they only accept emails, then email them, don't call them and leave messages. So those are some kind of basic ones. The idea of cultivating on the long run, that's kind of a different conversation. Once you start getting funding, that also is something though that requires strategy and thoughtfulness on your part. Just because you get funding doesn't mean then that it stops. It actually is when the relationships start with a funder. And the most successful relationships that IECC has with funders is because we have been intentional around how we cultivate our relationships with them. And it's not just the foundations, it's the individuals who advocate on our behalf. They know us really well, and we know them as well. And we invite them to things that are unrelated to their projects, unrelated to the funding they give us, so that they know that we want to be keeping them involved in their investment in us as an organization. So those are just some of the ones.
And the other thing, Jill, I want to add, Susie, is that doing what is needed to be done, partnering with who needs to be partnered with to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. I know that sounds like blather, but I really mean that. If you right now, if during COVID, if you weren't, during COVID and DEI time, I mean, if you're not addressing DEI, if you're not out there helping with the census, if you're not promoting, however controversial this may be, vaccinations and things like that, especially if you're doing yourself a disservice. I will say that the IECC has placed themselves so well, and it's not because they've been strategic and just thinking about how they're going to get funding. It's because they've been doing the right thing. They've been doing the right thing, partnering with the right folks, oftentimes doing things and not getting funded for them. The formation of the Inland Empire Children's Cabinet. They've been at the table because they know that the future lies with our kids, and we need to make sure that we address the needs of the children. They've been at the table. So being at the table is so important. Being in the Zoom room is so important. So I hope that answered, it was a very long-winded answer, but I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. I was typing a message. I'm so sorry and so embarrassed, but please pardon me. I have to leave the workshop. I just got an emergency call and I have to take care of it. And I was looking forward to this workshop, and I think I missed the other workshop, and I'm just going to have to keep trying. But I love everything that I've heard. I'm going to leave one more question, and I'm probably not going to get to hear the whole answer. But my other question was, you were talking about partnerships. So I was wondering, how do you feel about more than one person writing the RFP, or writing the RFP in teams?
Oh, I am fine with that. Because the program person will know the program design. The finance person will know the finance. Yes, but you need to have one person who's championing it, who's the quarterback, because they need to speak in the same voice and things like that. So that is really important. You need to have one person who's a point person, but get input from all the different parts of your team. Absolutely. I do that all the time. Oftentimes I'm just the quarterback, who's submitting it at 1 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, but that's definitely Patricia, definitely. And look for some more sessions. Look for some more sessions coming up. The IECC has many other trainings coming up.
I definitely will. Thank you so much. And pardon me. All right.
Okay, we're going to take a break now. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. So it is now 9:48. So we'll come back at 9:55. So I'll give you like 7 minutes. How's that? And I think we've got some music to play and something else. Get up, walk around. I'm going to do that. Get some coffee or whatever you need. And then see you in about 5 minutes.
Am I doing doggy daycare, right? Yeah.
Yes, my favorite. And we'll talk
Okay,
about
hold on, let me do that. Why is it not going down full screen? There it is. Here we go.
Oh, hi, Mommy. Mommy girl. Hi, Mommy. Hi, Mommy. Hi. I like the game. You got ready, come on. Let's go. Hi, David. Boy, mate, eh? Boy. Fine. Fine, mate. Boy. Good boy. Hello, you little cutie. You little cutie. Oh, hello. Oh, here, I got it. G'day guys, so you may notice a new tractor behind me here, and it's painted all purple, ready for our Halloween celebrations next week. So Halloween starting on Monday, going all the way through to Friday, and we are excited for, once again, dress up week.
Andre, let me turn it on.
And
There you go. Sorry.
We're still a little early, but
Oh, sorry. I thought we were 55 minutes. That's okay.
no, oh, does it say 55?
Sorry, 90. I thought it was 52, 9:52. We'll be back. That's good. I'm sure.
I'll give him a few more minutes.
Okay, thanks. Let me turn the other one on that has a more musical one.
Okay, although it is it's okay to listen to at times.
Okay, that's okay. Oh, sorry. We'll do it at the next one too. Let's go surfing now, everybody's learning how it goes. Fly with me. Oops, ready?
Yep, let's do it. Excellent. So welcome back, everyone. As you can tell, we have many dog lovers in this group. And for those of you that haven't attended any of my training sessions, that is my favorite place. Doggy daycare farm trips in Australia. And if you should go on Facebook and check them out, because they are just, it is what I want to do when I grow up. The gentleman, Luke, who started this, he was an Australian military, I believe it was essentially the equivalent of an Australian SEAL, retired from the military after several tours in the stands, and came out 11 years, 1 year shy of being able to receive a lot of benefits from the Australian military. And he had tremendous PTSD. And there's a reason why I'm telling you this, because there's a need here. He had tremendous PTSD, and he was having difficulty coming back to Australia. What he discovered was he had a bond with dogs, so he started doing dog walking. And he had a special skill for it. So he started then doing dog training. Then he and his wife, Sam, bought a 30-acre piece of property not far from, I believe it's Sydney, not far from Sydney, where a lot of people have dogs and go to work and need a daycare for their dogs. So we bought 30 acres, which had a pond on it. He then created a doggy wonderland. So the needs were, if you think about it, he had needs. He had PTSD. He was having difficulty finding what he wanted to do after acting as a SEAL. The dogs had needs. They would be locked up in a house all day while their parents went to work. The parents had needs because they would come home to a dog that's bonkers and probably not very well behaved. He said, I can do this. So he created Doggy Daycare Farm Trips. And it is, like I said, a wonderland for dogs. And the benefit is you pay to have your dog go there for the day. The dog gets training. The dog comes home dead tired, but clean. He also bathes them at the end. Think of that. So if any of you know of 20 acres or so in maybe Redlands for, a small amount of money, let me know and I'm there. Yeah, you'll buy it and I'll buy it from you and you can make some money. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you got your water, got your coffee, took care of what you needed to take care of. The next section we're going to be talking about is the needs statement, because the needs is so important. To have a well-crafted needs statement can take you so far. You have to make your point. You have to really prove with data that there is a need in whatever region you're serving for your services. So we're going to I'm going to show you a little video. Actually, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint for a second here. And go to share screen. And there we go. All right. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, so we've covered this. Again, keep it simple.
This is what her name is, Miss Bell. That's why she can't get in.
Oh, let me go back here for a second. All right. Go back for a second. All right. I'm going to show you a little video. It's very short. It's about 2 minutes long, 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. It's about your why. Why are you here? Why is this important? Why are businesses that are successful? What is the why? And let me see here. Let me go ahead and stop sharing now and go back to, all righty, 1 second here. I'm going to go here. This is going to be fast. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Make sure it's going to play. Hey, Brian.
I will pull it up for you. Let me see if I can.
Thank you. I have it, but it doesn't seem to be. Oh, if you can take, that'd be great. Sorry. For some reason, I had it all ready to go, and now it won't play it. So it's just me. I'm going to show you a Simon Sinek video. For those of you that don't know, he's pretty amazing. So let's see here. All right, thank you, Brian. You're wonderful.
Probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, but very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? And why should anyone care? The inspired leaders and the inspired organizations all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. If you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. That if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration. So it's this here, this little...
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's okay. It's okay. It gets into a whole different topic. So the point is that why are you doing things? People, you notice that he said, people will buy your case, will fund you because of the why. How you do things, how you tackle that is your program design, but why is so important. As I said, if the Inland Empire had robust nonprofit, actually, if the Inland Empire had 0 people in poverty, had 0 people experiencing homelessness, had a high graduation rate, had people who were healthy, who appreciated the arts, who took care of the environment, we wouldn't have a need for nonprofits. But unfortunately, we don't have that environment. So again, our ecosystem has extensive needs. So we're going to talk a little bit now about information and making the case for your need statement. Any questions? Because that's kind of an important thing. It's very important to understand that you have to clearly articulate why you're here. Any questions? Okay, now we're going to go back to my, let's see here. All right. I love Zoom, but I also love Brian because he fixes things. So that's the important thing. Oh my word, where is it? Okay, let me go back here. I want to cut out Simon. Bye, Simon. All right. Let's see here, share screen. Brian, have you seen the screen before, Brian?
Go ahead and, yeah,
Oh, there. I should actually just follow the directions that it said on the screen. That's kind of neat. That's kind of neat how that works out. Brian, I'm just going to give you credit for that one. Okay. All right. So now let's go to this. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Just follow directions on the screen. Okay. All right. So now let's start with the why. So why is this program important? It makes your case. It proves there's a reason for your organization in the program. In the need statement, you have to describe who this program will benefit. Why is this service that you're providing important? again, the IECC makes the case because of the huge number of small nonprofits and the continuing issues with social determinants of health. Why is this program important? And then it also, what is the consequence for not providing it? So you see things like if the education, when you start looking at the lack of, or the small number of individuals who are going on to higher education from the region, this has just a huge impact on the businesses that come into the region. If you think about it, what is most of our region covered by? Warehouses, right? And if you think about it, there are some fine institutions of higher education, but if you look at the numbers of folks from our region going to college, graduating from college, it's small. So Amazon comes and fills the gap. So you have to really make your case and cite things. Come on. So a need statement convinces the reader that it's important to meet the need, and that your project can meet the needs of the region. You have to include heavy demographic information on your area and the clients. This then makes the case for your needs statement. Also, then you also identify gaps in services. You use local data that is credible data, but you also compare it to other well-known troubled cities. I frequently compare the Inland Empire to Los Angeles, because some folks from back east, from the foundations back east, won't know that San Bernardino County is such a different beast than Los Angeles County. They just say, why don't you just partner with LA County? It's like, well, it's a little bit more difficult than you'd think. So you make the case that, and especially when you start looking at the data from San Bernardino and Riverside counties, we are in far more dire straits than Los Angeles County, and very much as compared to Orange County. Imperial County, not so much. But when it comes to our region, if you look at data as far as poverty, unemployment, health indicators, the aging population, the income, we are in a bad place as compared to LA County. I also compare our region to an area called Detroit, Michigan, because not too long ago, we were not too far behind Detroit, Michigan, and everyone nationally knows the problems that Detroit has had. We have not rebounded, though. We've slightly rebounded, but we've not rebounded. So again, compare, but be careful with your comparisons. A funder once said, why would we want to fund a sinking ship? The Inland Empire comes across as a sinking ship. So you have to show that there are bright spots. Your program might be one. Slight changes in any data indicators will then show that you're not a sinking ship. Okay, so these are some of the things you'd want to include in your needs statement. So you want to tell the funder, are people working? What percentage of the people are working? Is the area safe to live? Is there a high crime rate, high gang rate? Is there a high percentage of the population that are minority or underprivileged? We actually have a higher percentage of individuals who are minorities than Los Angeles County. I always put little charts. I put little charts in because charts speak 1,000 words of text. And when you start looking at, again, the ethnicity demographics of the region, it is, if you look at the Inland Empire, we far exceed LA County in so many ways. Not all good. Is there a sense of community? That's when you're talking about the travel time to work, especially if you're an organization in the high desert. That having a travel time to work and citing the travel time to work is really an indicator of quality of life. Is there community? If most people are getting on the freeway and traveling, an hour to 2 hours each day, where do they probably buy their food down the hill? Do they participate in like Little League? Probably not. So those are important things to know. Dropouts, that's pretty obvious. Be careful with dropout data though, because high school dropouts, because oftentimes they'll show a graduation rate of, say 80 to 90%. But if you look at the incoming class of 10th graders as compared to the numbers of those graduating, there's a huge gap there. What oftentimes schools do is they look at the 12th grade starting and the 12th grade completion, which is very different than 10th grade starting and 12th grade graduation rate. You lose about half of your folks. And then you just explain it in the narrative. Again, compared to other high profile areas such as Los Angeles. But again, make sure that you don't paint yourself as a sinking ship. Other things to note. So who you're serving, paint the picture. If you just say, if you are, say you're a program that serves victims of domestic violence, if you just say that you're serving women who are victims of domestic violence, you're shortchanging yourself. You should talk about their ethnicity, about the income, about the number of children, possibly about any health issues. You need to really paint the picture. I had a funder tell me once that they didn't see the picture of the population. I was very clear, but they didn't get the picture. So throw in as much as you can with citations. When it comes to community characteristics, are you largely talking about areas that have multifamilies living in apartments? Are you talking about areas that don't have parks, that don't have the arts, that don't have libraries? This is a big one too, food deserts. If there is not a grocery store that's close by that sells fresh fruits and vegetables, that's going to indicate that there are issues with health. So really paint the picture. Okay, so I'm going to stop because those are all things that I went through a long list and a lot of information. Let me go back to it for a second. Let me go back to the first slide. Come on. There's a lot of information here. How do you track this information? Because it changes. I put all this, depending upon the organizations I work with or the areas I serve, into a spreadsheet. And I try to update it as frequently as possible. I also, just keeping track of data, I also have on my computer, I have a spreadsheet. When I write a proposal and there is a nugget of data that is important, I put it in the spreadsheet and I put what proposal I wrote it in. So that way I can refer back instead of going, what proposal did I write? Who was it for? So I just keep kind of a little, an index of all my data, because this can get overwhelming after a while. Questions on any of this information in the needs statement? This one, the general relief, dollars in general relief assistance, this one's a tough one to find. San Bernardino County Human Services did who was the director at the time? I can't recall who the director was, but when I looked for this, the last study they did was probably in 2018, and it went down per city of the dollars that were given out in general relief, which would be like, food stamps, or it's called CalFresh, and it broke down into all the different categories, and it went per city, which really did make the case for when I was writing for Victorville and San Bernardino. So this one is hard. Marlene Haugen was the person at the time. And I usually Google San Bernardino County general relief dollars per city, Marlene Haugen, H-A-U-G-E-N, and it pops up. Any questions on finding this information? So I'm going to give you some websites in a few. Okay. So where can you find good data? Here's
I'm sorry, Andrea, this is Susie. There's a couple of questions in the chat. I just wanted to let you know, one of the questions that Juanita asked, can you talk about credible resources and data? And that's what you're going to do next. But also Aaron is asking, most of this info can be found on Esri. Would you use this resource or what others? And that's what you're getting to next.
Excellent. And let me go back here. All right. So yes, yes, and yes. Census Bureau, you can get a lot of good information from that. It has actually become far easier to use. and I'm going to give you a little tip in a bit as far as another training that we're going to be offering. The maestro of data, Brian Romo, and I are going to be doing a deep dive into data coming up for IECC. We haven't set a date yet, but you had better attend because it's going to be a hoot. It's going to be a hoot, a cahoot perhaps. Department of Labor is another one where you can find labor statistics. California Department of Education Data Quest. This one is really good. When I'm dealing with finding data on poverty, free reduced lunch, some of like physical fitness, of passing certain grades. This one, you can sort it. It's very easy to use. And I would use this one. FBI uniform crime data. This one, finding crime data is hard because think about it. Cities don't want to publish their crime data. They don't want to be known as the 11th most dangerous city in the nation, like San Bernardino has been. But you can find information here. Sometimes you have to actually go to your local law enforcement. Good luck on that one. County sheriffs sometimes publish data, but FBI, all of the cities and the counties, all their data uploads. Usually you will get data that's several years old. But if you have data that's several years old and you put in there in the most recent report by, that way they'll know that you're not just slacking in your research. Local hospital community health needs assessments. These are wonderful. The CHNAs. St. Dignity has CHNAs for San Bernardino, for St. Bernardine's, and for community health or community hospital. Kaiser, Loma Linda, St. Mary up here in the high desert, they all have, and actually in Riverside County, Eisenhower, all of those hospitals have CHNAs, community health needs assessments. They will give you so much information. It's wonderful. UDS Mapper is one of my favorites. It's somewhat difficult to use, but if you just Google UDS Mapper, you can get graphics, you can get information on that that's largely health related, on opioids, all those things. They also have free trainings. I encourage you to participate in those. Kids Count. Annie Casey is another good one. Obviously information on kids and foster kids, graduation rates, health, all those things. Kids data from Lucille Packard. It's another good one. This is one I use all the time. California Health Information Survey, CHIS, UCLA. That information, that data is usually, I think the most recent would be like 2019. Some goes back even farther, but you can really drill down and you can, and it's not at the city level though, it's county level. And then Riverside Community Indicators reports. Those, I don't know the most recent one. I think it's probably, I think it was 2019. But again, that's pretty pertinent. So those are all good sources of data. If you just Google it, GTS, Google that stuff, you should be able to find all of those. Those are all credible sources that are known, that you can cite with comfort. Esri, let's talk about Esri data. And Brian and Susie and Claudia, I would like to call on you to answer that question on Esri data, because another good source of data are the folks I'm talking to right now and the IECC. So I'm gonna let you guys do a little plug for your data, and then you can talk about Esri. Whoever wants to handle it, you're on.
We'll let Brian answer it. He's the best person in the room for me.
So yeah, first of all, for our little plug, the IECC website does have a data resources page where you can find all of the things Andrea listed here and more. We have like data institutions who do, you know, policy research, things like that. You can find really good information there. Specifically on Esri data is really good. It's great. They work together with state and federal agencies to update their data. They take their data directly from census as well. So the census website could be a little complicated to use sometimes, but if you know how to navigate the Esri data, that's fantastic. They try to clean it up for you. It makes it really easy for you to kind of filter out what you need, what you don't need. They have a lot of business analyst tools, which sounds like it's, you know, if you're a business, but it's for everyone to use, right? To find out more information about different companies or organizations that are actually servicing certain areas, right? So you can even see like, oh, who is servicing this area? What are they doing? And can we partner with them, like, right, finding out that information that we've been talking about. But yeah, Esri is a fantastic source. It can be a little costly to have access to it. But it's one, if you train yourself and kind of go through that process for Esri, I think it's a fantastic resource.
And I'll just add, the only thing I'll add is that I know Carla was on the phone and she worked for Census and now is at the UCR. The data workshop, and I think Julian Cuevas from Community Foundation is also on the call. And that workshop that Andrea alluded to that we're going to be planning before the end of the year is going to be in partnership with all of us to work together on really teaching nonprofits to be, use data in a more, thoughtful way so that we can make sure there's great resources out there, and to add them to your proposals is really can make the difference when you're trying to tell your story. And there's so many different ways to do that. So as Andrea said, please look forward to us announcing when that's going to come, but it'll be in partnership with Census, with the Center for Social Innovation at UCR and the Community Foundation.
And we're going to be really doing a deep dive. We're going to present a case study and show how we got the data and how we present it. It's, making the case is so important. And citing, this is, and we'll get to pet peeves. They're not even pet peeves. They're things that will cut you out of receiving funding later. But one of them is just making a statement, making a bold, like the poverty rate in blah is blah, and not citing it. Can cost you. You have to cite things, and you have to cite from credible sources. Good question there on Esri. Other questions? Anybody else? Are we good? All right, we're going to move on now to Kahoot. Brian Romo, maestro of data, game show host extraordinaire.
All right, so we're gonna play a game with everybody. So I want you to go ahead and open a brand new browser window, and then go to kahoot.it. So KAHOOT.it.
Sorry, there it is. Okay.
And then it's gonna ask you for a game code, and wait just a second while I put that up for you. Let me open game settings.
And Brian, do you want to control the sharing?
Yeah, I'll do that in just a second. Make sure that you can see both the questions and answers on your device. Randomize the order of questions. Let's get some adventure music playing while we play. And let's start a classic game. Let me make this bigger for everybody. All right, so once you go to kahoot.it, you want to enter the game pin right there at the top of your screen. So it's 929121, and then go ahead and put in your name. So those of you who have not played Kahoot before, it's basically a fun quiz game. We're going to go through a series of 6 questions. If you get the answer right, you get points. But here's the thing, if you get the answer right faster than somebody else, you get more points. So you want to be the first one to answer as quickly and as accurately as possible. So we're going to give people just about a minute here to get on in there. And so go ahead again, open up a new window. You want to go to kahoot.it, enter the game pin 929121. So we got a handful of people in there. And then Susie or Andrea, whenever you think we're ready to start, just go ahead and give me the cue and I will start this up.
Oh, Susie, you're muted. Susie, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, Brian, there's 32 people on the call and we have 20 that have signed up yet. So if anybody's having any trouble, just let us know in the chat and we'll kind of walk you through if you're having trouble still logging in.
And I see somebody had a connection problem. So, and then Juanita says, split your screen to see both browser and Zoom. Susie said, thank you. Okay.
So I think it looks like 10 people are not. 13 people are still unable
Oh,
to.
we had a couple people drop off. Let's give them a second. I just admitted them back into the room.
Got it.
And we just lost somebody. They got afraid.
So we got one back, and I know we lost one more person. Give them a few seconds. Just remember, the website is kahoot.it, KAHOOT.it, and the game pin is 929121.
I think we're ready. Those are those that wanted to play.
Alrighty, we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, we got one more in. There we go. So I think you can join at any time, as long as you have that game pin. So remember 929121. Righty? So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, we're going to be going over, this is part one. There will be another Kahoot later on today, but we're going to go over some of the things that Andrea's talked about. So question one, what are some of the questions you need to think about when writing a needs statement? Who will benefit from your program? Why are you providing the services where you're providing services? Why is your project or program important? Or do you need to think about all of these things? Is it all of the above? You have 7 seconds left. 3, 2, 1. 16 answers in, and everyone got it right. All of the above. Good job. So let's see. Okay, but remember, even though everyone got it right, someone got it right faster than somebody else. So let's check our leaderboards. FSA is in first place with 930 points. And it's, a 2-point difference between Stacy and MLSO. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next round. Question 2 of 6. This is a multi-select. The structure of an application/proposal should include what information? Mark all that applies. So there's more than one correct answer here. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be all of them. So make sure you mark all of the ones you think that apply. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1.
Jesus.
And the answer was all of them. All of these things are correct. So you should have clicked every single box on your screen. And for those of you, I know that this happens sometimes, so make sure you're clicking the box in your Zoom in your browser window, not the one in the Zoom window, to record your answer. Okay, the one in your browser window. That's your little keypad, right? So let's see if any changes. Oh, FSA has dropped and Stacy has moved into first place, followed by Yoli has also moved up, and MLSO has kept steady in third. Let's go ahead and go up to the next question. Question 3 of 6. If you're not sure where to find good data, where do you look? Just a YouTube video, find something on Wikipedia, check the IECC website, or check someone's personal blog. They know what they're doing, right? You have 7 seconds remaining. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, not me.
Yes, everyone got it right. Check the IECC website. We have a great page full of data resources for you to use. Righty? And I know Andrea and I had this conversation earlier. Why wouldn't you want to use Wikipedia? Anyone can update Wikipedia. It's not standard information. If you do use Wikipedia, make sure you go down all the way to the bottom or click the little citation right in the text to see if that information is coming from a reputable source.
Right.
Next up, let's see if the leaderboard changes. Oh, and they stayed the same. Sarah is catching up though. She has moved into 4th. Let's see if she can get it into our top 3. Okay, question 4 of 6. You determine if you've achieved your outcomes by doing what? A proposal, a needs statement, a program budget, or an evaluation? Which one of these things did you do to see if you've achieved your outcomes? 5 seconds remaining. 3, 2, 1. Yes, it's an evaluation. Great. All those things are important, but in order to check your outcomes, you need to do an evaluation. You need to check and see where you started and where you're at. Right? Let's check and see Yoli's moved down, but she's gotten 4 in a row, so she's on fire. And Stacy is in first place, and MLSO has moved into second. So let's see. We have 2 questions left. So which is not a part of your needs statement? Does the needs statement include demographic data? Does it include your organization's mission? Does it include the problem or need? Or does it not include gaps in service? So which is not a part of your needs statement? 3, 2, 1. Right, so it's your organization's mission, right? So your need needs to address the need using that data, right? You want to be able to paint a picture with your data. You need to show those gaps in services, right? Putting that all together, you show the problem or you show the need, right? That's what's in your need statement. But you don't need to talk about your organization's mission to do that. All right, let's see if there's any changes. Oh, Stacy, she's fallen back. There's one more question. You can still catch up. But Yoli has moved into first place. Sarah G is now in second, and FSA has moved back into third. And I'm glad to see Juanita's back on the board, followed by Stacy. Okay, so let's see. This is the last question. It's anyone's game. Everything is really close. All the points are close. So this is a true or false. DataQuest is a great place to find data and statistics about education in California. True or false? Saw a lot of people answer quickly on that one. Waiting on a couple more people. You have 5 more seconds. Should you use DataQuest to find education about or information about education in California? It's true. Yeah, so again, that's one of the one Andrea likes to use. We also like kids data and a couple of other ones. But DataQuest is really fantastic about finding about your local school board data about your local school districts is what I meant. There you go. So next, let's see the podium. In third place with 7,103 points is FSA. In second place is Sarah G with 7,150. And in first place with 7,476 points is Yoli, who got 6 out of 6 right. Congratulations, Yoli. Then we had Juanita and MLSO come as runner-ups in 4th and 5th. So let me go ahead and take a note of that. And I will go ahead and put your emails, the top 3, Sarah, Yoli, and FSA, into the chat. And I will be contacting you later about a prize.
Ooh. Yeah. Do they get a car? Do they get a doggy daycare farm trip? So Brian, could you tell us a little bit about Kahoot?
So Kahoot is this really great platform. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me go ahead and stop sharing for a second. You can see we're doing a good job. People are around 69%, right? So about 70% there getting them right, which I can attest is pretty good. Let me stop share. They do have, I used it a lot when I was teaching at UCR with my students. Let me tell you, college students also really love it. You know, you always have this perception of like, oh, college students are not going to like these things that are genuinely made for children some of the times. No, they love it. They have fun. They also love it when you curse, but I will not curse on this call. But yeah, as a nonprofit organization, you can apply for 50% off their membership. So it's a really great tool to keep people engaged.
Yeah, I was so, and Brian did one last week, and he is into space. And I was all on the planets. I taught 6th grade science, and I was trying to remember. It's like, okay, what's the acronym? How does it go? It was bad. It was bad, but it was so much fun. So thank you for sharing Kahoot with all of us. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate that greatly, and good job, everyone. Now I'm going to go back to the presentation. And so just to sum up the need statement. The need statement is so important because, again, it paints the picture. It paints the picture for the funder. If you're applying to San Manuel, they know the region, but you need to show them that you know the region. If you're applying to possibly Weingart, they know the region, but again, you need to show them that you know the region. If you're applying to Ford or anybody back east, they don't know the region. So you really need to explain the region. it's very important to really paint a clear picture. Again, showing them that you are using credible sources, that there is a problem. And is anybody else hearing static? Are we good? We're good. Okay, maybe it's just my Mac getting hot. Okay, so now we're going to go back to this, and I'm going to make another pitch for the data session that's going to be coming up. Let's see here. All right, so there's Cahoots. And let's go. When it comes to the data session coming up, stay tuned again. There's going to be a deep dive into data training session. You're going to have Brian and I working together, which should be fun. And we're also going to have a representative from the census, from UCR, and maybe Julian will even make an appearance. So that would be awfully nice. Data. One other thing, I'm going to make a pitch for, we haven't gotten into your organization data, but if you are not collecting data on your participants, you're doing yourself a disservice. And when I say collecting data, a deep dive into data, meaning, you know, again, not just their gender, not just their ethnicity. You need to really know as much as possible so you can paint a picture on who you're serving. So just a pitch there, start collecting data. Managing data is a whole nother topic, but spreadsheets can go far. Excel can go far for a while until you grow beyond that. And that's when you call Brian to help you out. But so any questions on data? Because we're going to move on now to, we're going to do a little review. No questions in the post, Susie? We're good? Okay. So want to show you and Brian, did we have an activity for this one? We didn't, did we? It was just in chat. Okay, got it. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to ask you to watch this video and to place into chat what things you think you might want to put into, oh my word, into, I know the problem is, okay, into a needs statement. So hold please. Let me go ahead and play this video. Hold please. I gotta open it. I did not prepare for this one. I blew this. So hold please. Get this going. Okay. Make sure it works. Video. Okay. Let me go ahead and I'm going to do this, and then I got to start going.
Homelessness is a huge issue for the entire state of California. However, it can be experienced on a large scale here in San Bernardino County. I'm Kristen Lago, and ahead of the Trump administration's visit to the Inland Empire on Tuesday, I spoke with a local homelessness advocate who showed me what the crisis looks like in his hometown. Most afternoons start out like this for Levi Deathrage. A walk in the park and a red bandana on his head.
People see 1,000 faces a day, but they only see one bandana.
It's a way for Levi to stand out, because in this park, an area known for its poverty, he has all too much in common with the people living there.
You know, I remember being 15, sleeping on a park bench. So I look at things like that, and it's absolutely a reality. I am faced by my own triggers every single day at work.
Levi was homeless off and on, beginning at age 15. His reality as a teenager included drugs, gangs, and jail time. It's what shaped his desire as a young adult to give back.
You guys need any hygiene kits today?
Especially in his hometown of San Bernardino County, which saw a 23% jump in the homeless population from 2018 to 2019. The 2,607 individuals living without a permanent home is only expected to increase when the count is conducted later this week.
Homelessness just keeps increasing because our funding stays relatively stagnant while the issue continues to grow at an almost annual rate.
Levi works at what's called the Family Assistance Program. It's an agency that operates the shelter he once lived in. In addition to serving as an advocate and speaking with many different elected officials, he also runs the Street Outreach Program. He told me the issue of homelessness here is trifold.
Housing is too expensive, jobs are too scarce, and people just don't care about people enough.
However, it is an issue that will be front and center come Tuesday, when President Trump's new homeless czar will speak to the Inland Empire. Although the administration and many of the local agencies have different ideas of how to solve homelessness, Levi is hopeful they'll find some common ground.
They would come with an open heart and really understand and take a moment to listen to the stories of some of these people, because until you change the dialogue, you're not going to see any progress. And that's what I really have high hopes for.
Working together to face an all too real and still growing reality.
Okay. So on that, what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing. I am going to now ask you to put in chat, if you were making the case to have a homeless program and a program addressing people experiencing homelessness in San Bernardino, what types of data would you want to cite in your need statement? Place it in the chat. Homelessness and homelessness trends. Very good. Point in time counts. Very good. The number of people increasing rates of homelessness, salaries. Very good. Unemployment rates, cost of housing. Whew, yes. How homelessness compares to nearby areas and counties. How many homeless there are in the area. Housing demographics. Good. Domestic violence stats. Very good, Sue. Very good. Families versus singles. Very good. What are the long-term implications for homelessness in a community? Anyone else? Job, geography, poverty rate. Drug use. Very good, Nani. That's where I was going. Crime rates, drugs. Very good. Substance use, mental health numbers. Thank you, Marilyn. Absolutely right. Transportation for people to get to jobs. Very good. Let me ask you a question. How does having a large homelessness population affect the quality of life in an area? Medical care. Thank you. Veterans, disabled. Very good. Disability numbers. Very good. Very good. You guys are getting it. You want to paint the picture. So a person you're describing, if you're coming up with a program addressing people experiencing homelessness, life expectancy. Do you know that people experiencing homelessness long-term live 30 fewer years than people that don't, that people that live in stable homes? 30 fewer years. And then if you think about healthcare costs, that's another thing I'd point out. So you look at the issues, you look at the homelessness numbers, but then how it affects the quality of life. Are large corporations that wanting to come in here? So you want to look at the economy, everything. Very good, guys. Excellent job. Very, very good. Very good. You guys are getting it. Okay, so now we're going to go back, and now we're going to start talking about now what do we do? So we've made the case that there's a problem, right? So we know that say we're dealing with homelessness. We know that that homelessness has negative consequences on the rest of the environment of the region. So now what do? We got to then create a program to address these issues. So let's see here. Sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and share. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so okay. Come on. All right, so now program design. So now you have a problem. Now we got to fix it. So that's what your organization does. So now we're going to talk about program design. Program design, as we talked about, it's a very clear, logical, sensible solution to addressing the need. So in program designs, you want to talk about what goes on, activities that go on, who's going to take care of it, and then your desired objectives. That's all in the program design. We're going to break it down into different chunks. The first one is actually the activities that go on. So before we start into that, more and more funders are looking for your programs to be based on evidence-based or best practice programs. The reason they're doing this is because they want to make sure that they're investing in something that's not going to be a fluke, that's not going to blow up, that's not going to be a problem. They're looking to invest in things that have been shown to be successful. There was a funder, a federal funder, that was looking for innovative programs based on evidence-based programs. And when I asked the funder about that, I said, innovative, evidence-based, how does that work? And they said, we want it based on evidence-based, but we want it to be innovative. Kind of scratched my head at that, because as you know, evidence-based programs take a long time to be deemed evidence-based. It has to go through a full vetting. And so it's hard to have innovative evidence-based programs. So we're going to talk a little bit about evidence-based programs, where you can find these things. Your program may already be based on an evidence-based program, and you may not even know it, because oftentimes there are some very sensible, logical approaches to solving problems that other people have thought of that have been deemed evidence-based. To find some evidence-based programs, here are some clearinghouses for you. The Pew Results First Clearinghouse is used frequently, and it's usually dealing with programs such as substance use disorder, mental health, justice programs, things like that. It is awkward to deal with, but it lets you download a spreadsheet of thousands of evidence-based programs, and it's sorted by the highest level of evidence-based versus medium versus lower. It is, again, it's difficult to use, but you can download a spreadsheet and it is very helpful. The What Works Clearinghouse is often used by many folks. The Pew, by the way, encompasses, I think there are about 10 different evidence-based clearinghouses that the Pew uses and kind of compiles it. What Works is one of those. Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, OJJDP, if you're looking for justice programs, it not only deals with juvenile justice, but also adult justice programs. So reentry programs. California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse for Child Welfare. There is another one as well. And there are others. SAMHSA, I think, has their own. Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Agency, I believe. They have their own as well. So there are 4 right here you can refer to find out if your program, to find out a program that yours is very similar to, then you can cite that program. Also, by citing an evidence-based program, you're showing the funder that you know what you're talking about. That's important. They need to have confidence that you are not just proposing something that you don't know anything about. Okay, program. All right. We are actually almost spot on time here. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. Then we're going to move on to program plan. So you should be back here in 5 minutes, which would be at 52. Is that right? 53. At 10:53, come on back here. Okay, and then we're going to jump into program plan, and then we'll keep moving forward. Okay, take a break, get up, walk around. It's been about 50 minutes.
We'll do the doggy daycare thing again, Miss Andrea.
I just need 30 acres in red. That's all I need.
Yeah, there we go.
all surfing now. Everybody's learning now. Come on, surf with me. Come on. Hello, buddy. Before you look.
Oops. Oh, this is not the right one. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Eric,
Sorry,
host of
sorry.
the Animal Planet show, Who Let the Dogs
Sorry,
Out?
sorry.
Let's face it, we love our dogs.
I'm
but we
gonna
don't
try
really
to
love
find a new
behaviors
link.
such as
Sorry.
incessant barking.
Thanks, man.
Sorry. Here we go.
All right, guys, well done. Hello, Billy. Good girl, darling. Hello, baby boy. Hello, baby boy. Let's have an incredible day. Good job, guys. Well done. Let's go. Come on. Woohoo. Come on, Donald. Ready, go.
Okay. It's probably about time. There we go.
The doggies are still barking.
I know. You know, when I play doggy daycare farm trips almost every day, my dogs kind of do that. Like, what? Who else is here? So what I'd like to know is how many people have already gone to doggy daycare farm trips on Facebook and started looking at it, because it is a bright spot every morning for me. And you know what, I just realized, Susie, I don't think I'm being inclusive, because there are probably some cat lovers here as well.
This is true.
And I've looked for some cat farm trips, and they don't exist, unfortunately. And the cat videos, I've had many cats. I just now have 3 dogs, but the cat videos I've seen aren't nearly as much fun.
Myra says we need to look at rabbit videos because she's got a rabbit.
Well, but I used to teach 6th grade, and I bunny sat for a friend of mine for about 6 weeks. And that was the most destructive bunny. I understand that all bunnies are very destructive, that they eat things like plastic even. So but that bunny scared me. I'm frightened. I have a fear of bunnies now. So maybe Myra, you'll have to talk me out of that. All right, so welcome back, everyone. We are now going to chat about program plan, your program design, because, oh, Myra, I love my rabbits. I have 2. Oh no, mine are well behaved. Very good. There was a poster, a laminated poster right behind this bunny, and it ate like 3/4 of the poster. And I remember just going like, well, and they're like, I guess, natural recyclers. I guess they can eat anything.
I will definitely have to show you some pictures of my babies.
Okay, and maybe I'll find some bunny videos, because I also there are also some good little baby goat videos out there. There are some. So maybe, Myra, the next time I'll look for some cute bunny. If you can send me some cute bunny video links.
Okay, you can even potty train them, so that's how I have mine.
Wow. Okay. All right. Challenge on, Myra. I want to see them. I am inclusive. All animals are good.
You're on.
All right, we're going to now get into, so what we've covered is, so now you have painted the picture. You now have shown the funders that there is a need for a service. You then have done the research to find out what evidence-based programs are out there on which to base your program. And so now you have an idea. So you've again shown the needs. Now you've done the evidence base. Now we're going to get into all the different components of the actual program design. Big asterisk caveat here. Each program will be different. The one that I'm going to be showing you, or the model that I'm going to be showing you, is more for a human services type of program. If you are a nonprofit with the arts, there may be pieces that you don't need, but you might want to consider these things. If you are, I would say, the arts, maybe the environment, maybe museum, it may be a little different, but you should still consider all the different pieces, because you need to think about all the different steps it's going to take for a participant, a viewer, a visitor, all the different steps that they go through. Okay, so just know that. All right, so now we're going to talk about program design. Go here, share, click, go here. Do you remember early Zoom meetings, how everyone was just fumbling like crazy? I still am. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so the program plan. Okay, the program plan, again, it addresses the issues, it addresses the needs, and it identifies or solves the gaps. It describes in detail who's going to be impacted, but also describes how the program is going to operate, the different steps that you go through. It's important to have, because you want to make sure you address all these steps. If you don't address some of these steps, you're going to be shortchanging your participant and your program. It also identifies generally significant dates and a timeline, how long it's going to take to implement these things. And you need to make sure that it's aligned with the mission of the funder. So, did I? hold on one second. I think, yeah, I am here. Okay. So if you're collaborating with the partners, you need to mention their role in this as well. And I use the word logic model here because that's going to be another training session coming up. But a logic model is something we kind of started doing a logic model when we were talking about the theoretical weight loss issue, because a logic model talks about why it's important, what your objective is, how the activities you're going to participate in to have an impact, what the outputs are, what are the results, then your short-term outcomes and your long-term outcomes. This is similar to it. This is part of it. These are some components that you really should address. If you think about it, most programs should have some kind of outreach. You heard about this training session through some kind of outreach. You may have heard it from the Inland Empire Community Foundation. You may have heard about it through the IECC. You may have heard about it from someone else. There was some kind of outreach performed. Most programs, if you're dealing with human services, will then have some kind, so you reach out to the masses to get information out about your program. Then you do some kind of intake. There's got to be some, with the IECC, the intake may have been sign up, register for this. Most programs, if you're looking to have a program that is going to change behavior, get people jobs, improve their education, improve their health, there's going to be some kind of intake and then an assessment. An assessment would be what level, where are they starting? For a prisoner reentry program, we would do an assessment that looks at all the risk and needs. So we look at the areas at which they're at risk to reoffend. If they have housing instability, if they have a substance use disorder, if they're low in education, if they have no work experience, those are all things that we would assess. So you start off, you do the outreach, you do some kind of intake, you do some kind of assessment to find out what the baseline is. Then you move into case management. Then you got to come up with a plan. What's the plan here? Are you going to have them take a class in a GED class? Are you going to have them attend NA meetings? Are you going to provide them with employment training? Those are all the things that you come up with a plan. Make sense so far? Kind of like what we did when we're talking about weight loss. Then you come up with some kind of programming. They're going to need to take some kind of classes, something. Then you describe what those classes are. So after you have a case management plan that's developed, then they take some kind of classes. Then you eventually have to assess where they are. Where are they in the process? Because you got to know if they've made progress, right? So you have to evaluate the participant. Have they achieved what their case management plan wants them to achieve? There's got to be some kind of periodic assessment along the way, because sometimes they need to leave the program. They've completed the program. This is kind of the hardest thing to do for new programs when you have case managers, because they never want them to leave. But don't forget, we're there to get them over a hump, to get them to improve and then to move on. If you're doing an education class, if say a student is having difficulty passing classes in the 11th grade, where they're not going to be able to graduate, eventually you need to move them forward to the point where they've achieved the credits they need to achieve to move beyond that. But you need to know how, you need to assess if they have done that. So then you need to exit them. They need to leave the program. Thank you very much. But you want to follow up. Follow-up is not frequently funded by funders. That is one of the problems. So you need to figure out a way to embed into your program ways to follow up. Honestly, the best way to follow up is to offer incentives, which is difficult to fund again. It's offer incentives to come back, to re-engage with you. The other thing that has been working well for, I work with an organization called the Cal State Reentry Initiative. It's a prisoner reentry program that is under Cal State University San Bernardino that works with parolees returning from state prison. And follow-up is really hard, because a lot of individuals, if they're attending your program, that's a really hard time in their life. They're going through a lot of stuff for them to go, look, I'll participate in this program. And once they complete a program, they're like, thanks very much. I don't want to think about that time anymore. So they don't want to follow up. What Cal State has been pretty successful with is Facebook. following up on Facebook, Instagram, and all those, because they all stay in touch with one another. So we know where they are. But it's important to try to somehow figure out a way to track that information for follow-up. You need to also address program benchmarks. And benchmarks are things that you determine ahead of time where you know you're on track to be successful. So for instance, say you're starting a new program. There are some key areas that you know that you're on track to being successful. One might be if you need to hire employees, hiring complete. That's a benchmark. Another may be the completion of 20 participants, because you know if once you get through 20 participants, you've figured it out. You've overcome all the hurdles in new implementations. So 20 program participants enrolled. So that you need to clearly identify your benchmarks. Program evaluation. This is where you're looking at your whole program to see if you're successful. And what I mean by successful is when you go back and you develop the goals and objectives, which we're going to cover in a bit. So you need to figure out a way to evaluate your whole program. And the last thing that you want to do is a timeline. You want to somehow tell people what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, as far as implementation. Those are the key steps in designing a program plan. A lot of information, but the best way to do this is to copy from the slide into a Word document and put outreach, how you're going to do the outreach, intake, who you're going to, who's going to do, what the intake looks like, what it is comprised of. The assessment, what type of assessment you're going to use. It may be one that you create, or it may be one that's already out there, an evidence-based assessment. Case management plan, how you're going to note what the plan is for this person. Is it the person signing on to the plan? Then you go over each course or class description. You just type each of these out there and then take notes in your Word document, so then you get the whole program design figured out. I'm going to pause for a second because now I'm going to show you what I have used in a recent proposal as a program design. Graphics are really useful in this situation because sometimes people, that's a lot of text. If you start describing everything in detail, that can be page upon page. Sometimes it's easier to have a graphic. I'm going to pause. Does anybody have any questions on program design? Susie, do we have any questions in the chat?
I don't see any, Andrea.
Anybody have any questions verbally? Okay, we're going to move on. This, can you read? It's a little fuzzy. You can read it though, right? Okay. I was working with a group out of the Santa Barbara area on creating, it's creating a prisoner reentry program and it's largely focusing on substance use disorder, folks experiencing substance use disorder. And I put this in the proposal because I wanted to be able to show all the services and all the different areas that this program was addressing. And I also wanted to show all the partners. So I start off with, at the very top, where we get the referrals from, what the program is, who's doing it, what the assessment is going to be, which they're using an evidence-based assessment. A case management plan is created, what that organization is going to be providing, what the program partners are going to be providing, how often through the individualized case management, how often they meet, when they exit, when they follow up, and who's doing the evaluation. Everything right there, one graphic image. Now, was this a large graphic image? Absolutely. Does it cover all the pieces? Absolutely. I use that along with a narrative in my proposal. This also helps in having you think out and be able to explain to staff what you're doing, what steps there are. Questions on this? By the way, I just did this in PowerPoint. It wasn't any special program, just did it in PowerPoint and saved it as a PDF and then copied and pasted it into my proposal.
So I just want to say this is like one of the best graphics that I've seen about, like, you always think about, so as I'm thinking about grant writing too, right? And I've not seen this one. This is a new one for us, seeing this, Andrea. So every time I hear you, speak, I learn something. But honestly, it is one of the hardest things to do on a proposal, having someone who knows nothing about you understand what you're doing. And looking at your graphic is like so good, because think about it, no one, probably for most of us, we're not going to have that kind of complexity, but just if you made it simple, a simple graphic on telling them how you do your services, this is like the best takeaway for me, for you today, for me so far. I'm saying I just kind of loved it.
Thanks, Susie. Well, and this is, again, I wanted to show all the partners because collaboration was really important in this one proposal. So I put down, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on this slide, right? I could have easily just cut out all the main, the kind of the guts of it here. You know, I could have just put emergency shelter. I could have put the services and not the names. I could have, you know, put in one box with all the services provided by D&Js and then by partners. But I wanted to really show them, it's like, whoa, look at all these people, look at all these groups that this group has partnered with. But I could have made it far more simple. But again, if you look at almost, let me think here, all the components minus the benchmarks, because that's described somewhere else, minus the timeline, because that's described somewhere else, but all the kind of the things that go into the process for completing a project are represented here. So I encourage you, if you don't have something like this, I encourage you to grab a pad of paper, grab a pen, and just start, a pencil actually, because you'll start moving things around and just start charting out exactly the path of a participant and what they do, what happens through your program. And this can be used, if you think about it, it could be used almost for any type of program. If you're a museum, you've got to do outreach. You should be tracking that information on the folks that come into the museum somehow. There should be some kind of assessment of if they have enriched. Yeah, it's harder with the arts, unless it's an arts education program. It's probably, it could be done with the environment as well. It'll be a little different, but thanks, Susie. Any other questions on creating a graphic? Alrighty then.
Juanita had a question in the.
I am ready. I'm going to stop sharing so I can then see your faces. I'm ready.
So Juanita's question was, would you include this in all proposals or just those that recommend attaching additional information to support the proposal?
Really good question, Juanita. Here's the deal. More and more proposals are requiring you to put character limits and short answers in online forms. So with a situation like that, you can't do this unless they allow attachments. If they allow attachments, there are 2 attachments that I would recommend. If they allow attachments, a logic model, which you don't have any training in, so you have to stay tuned for that one, and or a program design, which is this. But so many funders are requiring you to put into a little box, you know, 500 characters, and you don't know if it's with or without spaces. So you just have to then play around with it to figure out. So it is hard to do. And then you may just put a narrative in there that this program will include outreach to intake of an assessment using a evidence-based assessment and, you know, programming related. You have to be, so it's tough. But if you're allowed to put in an attachment, do it. Definitely. Yes, because it just shows you know what you're doing, that you've thought it all out. Any other questions? That's a good question. Thank you, Anita. Any other questions? All righty then. We're going to move on because I want to make sure. And by the way, just to note, we are going to give you a little bit longer break to get some food for lunch and feel free to eat when you come back. You can have your camera on or off. I don't care. I know we all have to eat sometime. So we're going to be taking a break coming up in a bit. And then we're going to let you get to have a little bit longer break to come back. And then we're going to continue on. Okay. Because I want to make sure you get all this important information. All right. Let's see here. Go to here. Go to here. Okay. All right. So now what I would like to do is to share that. And like I said, just do this in a PowerPoint. And I know that there are plenty of other programs out there, but a PowerPoint where you can then just go ahead and save it as a PDF and then just import it into your proposal works really well. Okay, so now, all right, so I had to throw a picture of my dog in here just because I wanted to. So that is Misty May Mitchell. That is my sweet 11-year-old dog. You now know why I love dogs. And if you'd like to follow her at Misty May the dog, she has her own Instagram account. Anyway, that's a plug for Misty May. So what I want you to think about is when we're talking about people experiencing homelessness, what I want you to think about are all the different steps that you think a program should have, and just start throwing them in the chat right now. Okay, just start throwing them in the chat. Like when you're talking about outreach, how are you going to do the outreach? So just start throwing those things in. Think about, and I'll go back to the slide that shows the different steps, and I'd like you to just throw them in the chat because I'd like to see what your thoughts are and if you have it figured out. Let me go back to this. There we go. So just start throwing some thoughts in the slide on how you would do each of those. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes.
Questions? Does everyone understand what Andrea wants? Just to make sure you're clear.
Good point. So in other words, like how you would do the outreach, how you would do the intake, how you would do the assessment. Just start throwing those things in the chat. And this is for a program addressing people experiencing homelessness. Good. Gina, that's a very good point. Yep. Very good. Talk to other groups as well. Yep. We have people who have boots on the ground, survey homeless, offer incentives. Very good. Follow up with incentives. Yep. Food services. Good. Maybe a start. Developing a trust relationship. They're so important. Interesting. Sue said outreach, website, case management, ask goals, exit successful, reaching goals. Yep. Outreach. Yep. Using a website, collaborate with other organizations. Basic needs. Yep. Very good. Got about another 2 minutes. Good. All right, got about 30 seconds left. Trust building. Yep. That is hard. Yep. Okay, so we're going to move forward. I think you guys hit the nail on the head, especially when you're working with a population who have be consistent. Louise, thank you for saying that. When you're working with an organization, with folks, who have had challenges throughout many of them throughout their entire lives, developing trust, meeting people where they are, developing trust, working with organizations who are already doing this work, but showing up and doing what you say you're going to do are all really important things. with this and with that, we're talking a lot about outreach. We're talking about intake. We haven't really talked about assessment, but you've got to then assess where they are. Figure out what their needs are. You know, during COVID, I know I work with an organization. I work with Mary's Mercy Center, and during COVID, they have a congregate feeding program. It was difficult. They saw a lot of folks who were not normally visiting to get food because they'd lost their jobs. They were service workers and they'd lost their jobs. So they had to shift their thinking. These were folks that, you know, they had families. They were not chronically homeless. It was an episodic issue, but they had to change courses. And with this thing, you would come up with a plan for them. And then again, you keep checking along the way to see how they're doing. So good job, guys, good job. So now we're going to move into, so now we've developed, so we have the needs, we have what is our program is based on evidence. Then we have a program with all the different components. Now we get into, so now how do we figure out if we've achieved what we said we want to achieve? We're going to talk about goals and objectives. Oops, hold please. Okay. This may seem really simple for a lot of folks, but this is oftentimes the most, how can I put this? I see more frequently incorrectly written objectives than I do correctly written objectives. So I think it's really important to note this. So when you're talking goals and objectives, the goals are big, broad statements that you wish to accomplish. Objectives are far more specific and measurable, and outcomes are what's going to happen, what is the result of. I frequently use tables and charts to show the difference between all of them, especially for objectives and when it comes to outcomes. These are also all part of the logic model. So when we're talking, and the so what? Most organizations target the individuals. You also need to think about how is that going to have an impact on the population, target population. The ultimate end result is how it impacts the community. The hard part is, how do you work, if you're working with people experiencing homelessness, how do you show that what you're doing with this one person, with these 20 people, really affects the community? That's the ideal situation. It's hard to do because if you say, if you're working in the city of San Bernardino, or in Indio, or in Palm Desert, or in Victorville, or Barstow, you may have a small program, but how do you show that you're really impacting the community? It's hard to show with data. Homeless point in time count, if your impact, say you're working with 100 people, that's just, for the city of San Bernardino, that's hardly anything. So you just have to always think about, how is this affecting the community? When you're talking goals versus objective, again, goals are broad, overarching. It could be to decrease the homelessness in San Bernardino. Could be that. Objectives are specific, they're SMART objectives. And so it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. If there are any educators out there, this will totally ring a bell. This is how you write objectives for any class you've ever taught. I'm going to go into that. So when you're writing objectives, again, it's very, very specific. So it's specific, it's measurable. So it has to be numerically based and measurable. Achievable, which is that's kind of a no-brainer. It's like, are you able to do this or not? Realistic, similar, and time bound. So you give a period of time. An example. So be smart. Upon completion of the 6-month program, or the 6-month course, so right there you're specific. 6 months, it's a course. The participant will obtain full-time, so it's measurable, employment with a minimum wage of $15. Okay, achievable. Per hour with full-time benefits. Those are the results. And retain that position for a minimum of 1 year. So it's very, very formulaic. That is a clearly written objective. Each of your projects should have, each of your project or components of your project, because you may have multiple objectives, should have an objective written, depending upon your program. it takes practice. It takes practice to keep running those. You may go, and by the way, achievable and results are very similar. So in other words, they're very similar in meaning. You might be able to drop one out, but again, it's very formulaic. Now, you also have to talk about how you measure them. So I always put a chart in. So if I'm trying to prove certain things, I say, this is what the outcome I want. This is the tool I'm going to use to track it. Example, again, if we're looking for employment, use a paycheck stub. If you're looking at reducing recidivism, you're looking at arrest records. When it gets to those qualitative, those are both quantitative. When it gets to qualitative, it gets a little bit more fuzzy, but you should create a survey or a pre and post or something like that, so then you can make it quantitative. Increase in art appreciation is one example. An understanding of is another example. An appreciation for is another example of pre-post. So you would want to go from qualitative to quantitative. Economic growth, increase in businesses, decrease in drug use, negative drug tests, things like that. But again, you're going to want to have a system for tracking your outcomes. Okay, let's see here. All right. Some other general rules. Be realistic that you're able to meet the funder's expectations. Always, always, always under promise and overperform. Always set your bar so low that you're going to come out a screaming success. Okay, I mean, that is the way it goes. Just do that. Don't overpromise and underperform, please. Look at qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is important. In other words, the quality, do they appreciate? But turn it into quantitative. Use a scale, like a Likert scale, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very much understood or learned a lot, or something like that. 1 being I know nothing, I still know nothing. So use a Likert scale, 1 to 5, to show that there has been improvement. So you turn a qualitative into quantitative. Align your budget with your desired outcomes. One thing that funders will look for is if your budget if you're saying that you're going to achieve certain things and yet your budget doesn't reflect funding to support those things, they're going to know that there's something wrong. An example might be where you're doing an evaluation and yet you haven't put in any money into a budget for data collection. That's a problem. How are you going to do that? Somebody's got to do it. And then use other programs, because often I get a question, well, how do I know what I'm going to achieve? The first time that we wrote a proposal to the California Department of Corrections, the first time Cal State Reentry Initiative wrote a proposal to the California Department of Corrections to work with parolees returning from incarceration. They said, well, what do you think you're going to reduce your recidivism by? In other words, the number of folks returning to prison. And we said, we'll reduce it by 30%. They said, okay, great. So then we started getting nervous, like, what if we don't reduce it by 30%? So we call them like, well, what if we don't reduce it by 30%? They go, we'll just change it in the new contract. I'm like, that's not good. So always make sure that we didn't know this was a new program. So we then went back and looked at other programs nationally to see if programs that were similar to ours reduced recidivism. And sure enough, they came in at about 40%, actually about 32%. So we said we were going to reduce it by 32% and we far surpassed that. So use other programs as references, because sometimes you may not know. You have an idea, but you may not know. Questions? None? Easy? Are you sure? Because we are 10 minutes ahead of schedule. So we can, let me think about this here. Let's talk about evaluation really fast. Is Sarah Marshall on the phone? Is she on Zoom? Oh, you're muted, Sarah. Susie.
Sorry, Andrea. She was going to join a little bit later. She's in her in-person meeting.
Okay, got it. So we're gonna cover the next thing, which is program evaluation, because it's brief. But I want to make a plug for our evaluation, which is going to be at the end of the day. Program evaluation, as you know, is so important, and it is also really hard. It is hard to write a very good evaluation. If you are going after if you're asking for funding for a simple program, a small program, you can probably do your own evaluation. It can be a pre and post survey. It can look at an increase in knowledge, an increase in good behavior, meaning you're eating healthier. It can be something like that. But if you're working with a group who's doing a substantial, a large project, this is where you may want to think about outsourcing your evaluation, because evaluators know a lot and they go to school and they get PhDs in this stuff. If I'm writing a proposal that is a large proposal that's very detailed and complex, I always reach out to someone who knows what they're talking about, because this is an area, the people reading your proposals will know what they're talking about and they'll know you don't. So you always reach out to someone else. We're going to talk, program evaluation is basically describing how your program is going to be evaluated. Again, we talked about qualitative and quantitative. So you can talk about the increase in or improvement in thoughts and feelings. You can talk about increase in knowledge. That could be qualitative, but you should turn it into quantitative, as we talked about, and how you're going to track that data. You want to talk about the frequency the data is collected, how often, pre-post, 6 months after exit. And then you want to describe the evaluation results that will positively impact the future of the program. Again, Sarah Marshall is our evaluator, and she has worked on a survey that we're asking you to complete at the end of this session, and you'll get a gift for doing that. But it is critical for IECC and for your other programs to make sure that you do track your data, because it shows your impact. That's important to know. I think it's time for a lunch break. What do you think? So Susie, it is now 11:31.
Yep.
So should we have them come back at 5 to 12?
Yeah, or
okay.
5 to 12 or it's good.
Yeah, that'll be good. So 5 to 12, come on back. Or make it, you know what? Should I give them a half an hour?
Yeah, half an hour.
Half an hour.
Well, it's
So
easy.
I need to eat something.
Stand
too.
up, stretch, go walk your puppies or rabbits or whatever. And
yes, walk your rabbits and come back at 12, because then we're going to move into things that are organizational capacity, which is so important as well. And then we're going to give you some tips and sustainability plans, putting all together what's in an LOI and some key issues, etc., and where to find funders as well. So on that, come on back, take a half hour. I will see you at noon, everybody.
And to the questions in the chat, yeah, you can stay on Zoom. You can just turn off your webcam or whatever, mute yourself, and then go enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, guys. See you in a bit.